doesn't really have to do anything with the podcast or anything that. The podcast, I think, was like a huge impulse. Like just
do it.
With a lot of my ideas, it's like impulse, or I felt like a lot of podcasts are very like interrogative. They aren't really very conversation based.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Or maybe they're worried about the viral moment and how much publicity one's organization can bring to mine. And so therefore they don't get to know the person. You get what I mean?
Yeah. And so it's a shallow, empty thing.
Yeah. So like every individual that comes to this podcast is like, I always try to get to know them.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? And
Absolutely.
like create questions based on like, obviously like they would have to be vulnerable with me too, like but that's also me giving them like that space, like, hey, like you know, if you feel comfortable with it, then I can ask you any question. Absolutely. But thank you for taking the time and coming on. I know you're very busy. I saw that you were recently in Vegas.
Yeah.
What was that all about?
So we just did our first show out of the state by ourselves, Ashe Wrestling. So we just went to Vegas and set up shop as WrestleMania week end, but really WrestleMania week. Every year, you know, WWE has their big giant event. It's like Super Bowl of pro wrestling for them.
Yeah.
And for the last maybe decade, 15 years or so, maybe 20 almost, people, the independent wrestling companies from all around the world come and just basically take advantage of the giant migration of wrestling fans. You know, concentrated in one spot.
Centered around Vegas.
Yeah, well, it's not really necessarily Vegas because WrestleMania happens everywhere.
Okay.
So it's like this year was Vegas, last year was Philadelphia, the year before that was California. But wrestling promotions try to take advantage because WrestleMania is such a big draw. There are people from all over the world who come to just visit there. So now there's a wrestling fan from England who might be here just for WWE, but he wants to check out some of the independent wrestling and learn more about other wrestling he could be watching outside WWE. So now you have access to a whole bunch of new fans who maybe wouldn't discover you otherwise, or people who, if you know you're local like us, we're based in North Carolina here. Maybe you've been watching us online and you wouldn't have a chance to experience Ashe because you haven't been to North Carolina. But now you're in Vegas and Ashe's here for you, so you can check it out and experience it yourself. And now you become a bigger fan and spread the word. So it's really like a big commercial for us, but it's a show still. We still film for content, and we just put on about 6 to 8 matches, had some good stuff, and the story continues.
I always like to get to the root of like kind of where something comes from. Ashe comes from like the Yoruba religion, from
Absolutely.
what I was reading. Are you involved in the Yoruba religion?
I'm not actually. I know that may. I hope it never rubs people wrong, but I'm a person who kind of considers himself a Pan-Africanist. And the idea that I believe we're all united and we're all like kind of related, the African diaspora, that is, you know, the slave ship didn't only have one stop, right?
Absolutely.
Black people have migrated and been dispersed all across this world, whether that's consensual or non-consensual. We've been all over the world. So I like to stand under that unity, and I needed a word. I was looking for a one-word thing for a wrestling company. That kind of centered creation, centered love, centered community, something that we were actually about. And I stumbled upon the word, did some research, learned some more about it, and I really loved what it stood for. And I felt like it encapsulated the spirit of what we were trying to kind of create, which is just a space for ourselves to thrive and create more.
Because the Yoruba religion in itself, it's like very complex, and I know some people involved in that. That's why that question comes about, because it's like the transition of energy or the power of creation. Absolutely. So that's why I was asking about that.
Absolutely. No, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, I didn't want to name it Ashe just for no reason, and I didn't want to name it without doing my research about what it is and what it stood for.
Okay.
You know, especially like if it's encapsulating something as cultural as celebrating the African diaspora in large. You know, there's so many different flavors of what blackness is, and as we explore the medium of pro wrestling, or I'm in love with the medium of pro wrestling. Most people think pro wrestling and they think it's a genre, but it's really a medium. You can use it to tell any kind of story. Wrestling can be comedy, wrestling can be drama, it can be action, it can be love. So even though it's expansive, it is a hybrid of theater and sport. So it's the one sport that's written. The winners are the outcomes are written.
Which a lot of people kind of criticize that because like of like, then what exactly is a champion?
Exactly. Well, a champion is numerous things. We can get to that, but to kind of finish the thought, you know, we're standing in a space that, you're in essence you're creating a world. You get to say who the winners are, who the losers are. It's kind of a 4-dimensional theater. It's movies. It's cinema.
Okay.
And so when you're creating that many stories, and there is a huge overarching narrative throughout pro wrestling of black wrestlers just not really getting what they deserve or getting fair opportunities. You look at every other sport and you see black people are pretty much prominent or doing well in that sport. Who's the greatest basketball? Who's the greatest boxer? Who's the greatest tennis player? We're in those discussions. When it comes to pro wrestling, that top upper echelon is predominantly white.
Absolutely.
And that was something that a lot of black pro wrestlers like myself and in my age were kind of tired of being minimized to either card openers or people who weren't deemed to be seen as champions.
Now that you bring it up, it's like I've never really seen like a WWE champion that's black.
There's like 5.
Or maybe like they are not as promoted because.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to talk over you.
But, no.
Yeah, no, I agree. They're not as promoted because it's like, I mean, the first black WWE champion out of a 40-something year existence was The Rock. Half Samoan, half black man. The first African black the next black champion after him wasn't until 2019. The Rock won his championship in maybe 1998, I want to say. Mm-hmm. So the next one wasn't until 2019. So there's a huge disparity of what the top looks like. And you have to start asking yourself, why can't a champion look like me? Why aren't I in a position of a champion? So, Ashe was kind of us taking our power back, and we're creating something new, a cool concept of expansion upon what blackness looks like. And also, because it's so minimized in pro wrestling, it's not only we aren't put in championship or top positions, a lot of us have been asked to play into stereotypes. A lot of us won't get the job until we put on the chain or grill or wrap to the ring or something like that. So a lot of times we've been, minimized to stereotypes. So my thought process with Ashe was, let's celebrate the culture in a way that shows that we're more expansive beyond that. We're not just stereotypes. We don't have to, tap dance basically to get a job or to be good at our craft. We can be all these different things. And in essence, I felt like Ashe encapsulated that because we're creating a brand new spin on what blackness can be in pro wrestling.
And maybe not only that, it's that you're also under the rule of someone else's narrative. Like that there are a lot of things that aren't highlighted that someone that actually knows the culture can actually highlight and kind of bring about to the industry. Because then you have these superpowers that just constantly control narratives, just like in politics, right? It's like they'll show one thing, but it's like something else in the background. It's like they'll lightly promote you over here just so that you are pleased, and everybody in the crowd says like, oh, well, we did it at least.
Exactly. It's the bare minimum, right?
Yeah.
It's funny you mention politics because politics is stolen and gotten so much from pro wrestling.
Really?
I believe the whole world has.
I was so confused. Whenever Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton were like exposed in the WWE, I thought that was actually real.
Oh no!
I was like, I don't know. I was
WWE dabbles in politics. That's their thing. But that's that one company. I always tell people, Disney, they make movies. They might make some of the most expensive movies, maybe the biggest and more well-known movies, but they're not the only people who make movies, right?
Yeah.
So WWE is just like, that's what they do. That's their flavor. But there's so many other places that make movies, and I like to think, we make wrestling as well like that. But I know that with Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama stuff, when I say politics, I mean like wrestling itself. It has carnival roots to where it used to be a legitimate sport. Legitimate. Nothing was fixed or nothing was pre-written or predetermined. But they realized that they needed to change the style of pro wrestling so we could do this more than 2 nights a week. We can do this every night and then support our families. Because if you get hurt, then you're out months and now your family's broke. And if that's what you are, you're a pro wrestler. How can you provide, right?
And I think people minimize the athleticism and the damage that one partakes in doing all the motions, whether it's 100%. A body slam or just you basically run into a wall and then you have to hit like the back of the mat. It's like I've looked at that and it's to me it's like, wow, like how are these athletes like not getting hurt?
Yeah, I mean it's a lot of training, but a lot of times we do get hurt. I've had concussions, I've had a pec tear, I've had just like knee problems, hip problems. discs that are kind of compressed, things like that. You kind of work through all those things. So it is a sport that you have to love and know the risk you're going into, but there's ways to protect yourself, and we try to make sure that happens. But that said, sorry, I was kind of going to the politics thing.
Yeah,
it's a that eventually when we realized that we could predetermine this, we can make it kind of molded to where we wanted to go. We realized that stories sell, right?
Absolutely.
Stories sell. Like, you see two guys fighting on the side of the road, you want to know why they're fighting. Pro wrestling is the why, right? It gives you the why.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So when we can create stories and things like that, now there's a sense of the reality of what we really have going on behind the scenes and what we're telling the audience. That it's an element people call kayfabe. There's the real and there's the fake, right? And I've seen kayfabe translate to politics in real life, in reality TV and the pop culture. It's permeated throughout the past, I would say, 40 to 50 years. I mean, you look at someone like Mark Robinson, you look at someone like Donald Trump, they're effectively playing into a character to sensationalize things, to get people behind them, to galvanize, to martyr themselves. And you
think that came from wrestling?
I think it all comes from wrestling, brother.
Really?
I think it all comes from wrestling.
Because
you look at Donald Trump, even has a history in wrestling. He did stuff for WWE back in 2007, I believe, where he learns how to play up a character, play it bigger. I mean, the idea, in wrestling borrows from reality. They're the Muhammad Alis of the world, who are electric and charismatic, who gave you something to invest in. They gave you a persona. But, combat sports itself, with wrestling being a real leader in that, has kind of dictated American culture in a massive way. I don't think you can really get... it's hard to get attention nowadays without being a character or a gimmick or a persona. Look at how many podcasts have gimmicks. Oh, I'm on the subway. Oh, I'm eating chicken. Wrestling has gimmicks. That's what it starts from. You know what I mean? And now we're just evolved to, you see reality TV, it's all this. We're giving you the show. This person doesn't like this person. This person's fighting this person. We had to be pulled apart. Then the camera cuts and the producer's telling everyone what to do. Everything's pro wrestling. And so when you think about it, that's the reality of everything. Even media presses, like you see movies coming out and there's two co-stars. Of course they're gonna flirt on the media press. It's selling you a story. You're getting into that. So life is wrestling, dog.
And maybe I got a little bit ahead about into Australian wrestling, and I want to touch back on that. Yeah. But then how do you not get lost in the persona? How does Darius Lockhart not get lost into the persona? Tell me a little bit about that, because I bet that for you to even be introduced into more recognized organizations, you also had to play the act at some point, right?
Well, I the act that I've kind of leaned into is really a lot of myself. I heard Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock kind of speak to the best characters, the best personas. It's a little bit of you, a little bit of personality. Find one trait that's really strong about you and turn it up to 10. Turn it up to 15 if you can. Turn the volume up, basically. And I took the care I had for people. I took the pride I had in myself and my culture. And I was a young man really trying to find myself early on in wrestling. And it felt like, because of the way wrestling's set up, that people treated my blackness as a detriment. Like, yeah, you have to do this, but only do so much of that because people don't cheer for black people when they do this.
But in regards to what, though? Kind of like specific.
Okay, in regards to the way I portray a bad guy, or if I'm allowed to be a bad guy in a certain specific area. When I first started in pro wrestling, I started in a place called Burlington, North Carolina. The venue had Confederate flags hanging from the ceiling. They were afraid to have me be a bad guy for a long time because they didn't know how it would go. You know what I mean? Yeah. They didn't know if the fans were, if they get, if I say something to somebody and, I'm getting a reaction, that's my job to get a reaction. What reaction are we getting? What was the borderline? Or, if I wear something that that's a support or that's cultural, maybe that audience isn't supportive of that. Maybe they don't get it. Maybe they're afraid of it. Or even to a point of getting hired, sometimes you can't really speak to the problems in the world because people deem you political. Like anything that's naturally not white and heteronormative is deemed political, right? That's the only apolitical identity you really have in the world, that no one can throw stuff on you when you see it. You can be anything. Yeah. Right? So it's like, you could be more in reality, but perception is what perception, media, all that stuff like that, right? So,
and then that's why stories are so important, because then I think that I also try to like not saying that one group is right or one group is wrong, but because maybe their environment for them exactly into who they are today, but how much of control did they actually have? You get what I mean? Like in those situations, like to be a bigger person is always hard.
Yeah.
It's always tough.
Absolutely.
Like even you in those situations, it's like for you not to be intimidated by those situations or even allow that to get into your head, you have to be headstrong about it. You have to know who you are, but you also have to be aware that other people, where they're coming from, like you have to have such a good balance of that, and it's
absolutely, like, I had to contextualize all of that, especially as I was a young man coming into myself. Your early 20s, you're 19 really. I really started when I was 17, but as you're growing as a young man, you're trying to find yourself and things like that. It is important to contextualize everything. Contextualize that, hey, they're paying me to entertain and come to do this and, entertain people at a show. However, I'm noticing there's a ceiling on this because of the color of my skin. I notice they think that they don't need another black person on the show because this one black person's already here and he feeds the demographic, so I don't get hired. That's happened before too. Very early. It's been told in my face, hey, we already had this guy and he feeds our black demographic, so we usually don't book other black wrestlers, but you're different enough, so let's have you on. These are things that are kind of embedded in the culture of wrestling.
Like if one black person can't be like play different personas.
Oh, not only one, not really. It's really more so as if like there's a quota of how many you need on the card because this one black person is going to draw black people to the card, so we don't really need more black people than that. He'd be the representation for all the black people, and the rest can just be how we want it to be, which is however you want it to be, but not that. So that's kind of the stuff I'm like combating against.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for a little bit, it was hard. I mean, it's always really been kind of difficult trying to navigate that. But there was a moment where I took a lot of time to myself, and I told myself that, hey, everyone's acting like it's a detriment to you and your career, that this is going to hinder you or you're going to have all these hurdles. But what if we started treating it as a superpower? What if we started treating your culture and your identity and even your pride as a superpower? Not to where you put it down someone's throat, but to the point where you can present as one thing and then completely change someone's perception of what a proud black man is. Some people it's offensive just to even do this and be able to dress in all black. Some people have a interesting subconscious, a feeling of unsafety or uncertainty of what this person's going to do. Are they anti whatever? Are they anti people? But when you see a person come out dressed in all black and they put their fist up and they're hugging white kids and they're dapping Latino kids up and everyone's got their fist up and we're all the different colors and we're all unifying a room, and I'm standing next to a gay wrestler and I'm saying this is my best friend, and I'm standing next to a woman and I'm holding her in high regard. These things are almost like transcendent but really revolutionary to be in the body I'm in and to be in the presentation I'm in, but to do things that may be counter or someone's perception of what I'm supposed to be. So like when I say that, like maybe racism is taught, right? It's not born. You're not born with it, right?
It has to be brought up to your perception, like for you to be able to see it that way.
1,000%. So if a kid comes to a show and he sees someone that in his home he's been told all his life to not trust someone who looks like that, not like someone who looks like that, not cheer for someone who looks like that, then that person shows them love. Then that person shows them empathy. Then that person is getting their ass kicked in the ring, and then they're fighting back, and that little kid starts to find themselves empathizing with that person because they're seeing a struggle in the ring, which is all wrestling is. It's a morality play. You're seeing good versus evil, and when good fights back towards evil, everyone can relate to that, right? You can see good trying to fight, and everyone's doing the best they can. That's officially what a good guy is in wrestling. He's doing the best he can. So when a kid is watching that, when an adult is watching that, and they, for a second, just for even all it takes is a second, doesn't see color. They just see a person, a human being. That can change their entire perception of the world. That's the power of pro wrestling. That's the power of storytelling, right? That's the power of persona. So when I realized that that was a thing I could tangibly do with my body, with my vessel, with my time, with my career, change perception of what reality is, and also change perception of how black people are viewed in professional wrestling, and get rid of the ceiling, I leaned into it. And there were hard times because I realized later that it was a bit of a wall for me, a little bit of guard for me,
As in what though? Like for your leadership, for your organization?
No, I mean, I'm talking before Ashe. This is kind of before Ashe
Ashe.
talk, just as me as an individual. I think that I mean, because I'm really answering the question where you say, how do you go from like losing yourself? How do how do you do the line?
Yeah.
It's I go from losing. I mean, it's hard not to lose yourself in that because sometimes you're feeding so much to this message, to this character, to this persona, that you don't really leave a lot to water the person behind the persona. So, because wrestling's like a full-time commitment, it's a full-time job. You're wearing it. And when people see you, they don't necessarily want to meet just the guy. They want to meet the guy they saw in the ring. They want to get an autograph. They want to see the guy they bought a picture of, right?
The energy, everything.
The gimmick. They want to get the gimmick, right? And so when the gimmick's off, or when, you're hurt and you're off the road or you can't wrestle and it's quiet time and it's just you, there has to be a person on the other side of that you love and care for too, beyond what you're doing as a full-time job. So, and I'm not the only person. It's not just something that's so deep as my subject matter that affects people like this. Some people lose themselves playing comedy characters, dude. Some people lose themselves playing, whatever gimmick. You just have to kind of be careful and walk that line and make sure that there's a human being watered on the other side of that when the spotlight's off.
And what was my next question? It was did you ever find a point where you kind of fell out of love for wrestling because for you it's wrestling, I don't think it's like loved, but it's not respected. But like I don't know how your family took it, like whenever you told them you're gonna be like, wrestling is what I'm gonna do. Was that what was the reaction, and was there ever a time that you found it hard to love wrestling?
It's a good question. It definitely was a thing with the family. My mother, I said it when I was young, right? About 13, when I thought I was going to be a wrestler. And I've always said I want to be a wrestler, but I've always known that a lifespan gives you so much time to do other things as well. So this was my pride and joy, my love, but I always knew that you could even live beyond that. But when I told my mom I was going to be a wrestler, she was like, okay, it's 13, it's cute now. He might grow out of it. He said he was going to be Batman 5 years ago. You know what I mean? Who knows? But as I kept hanging on to it, I'm 17 years old, and I found out there's a wrestling school here in Charlotte. I asked my mother, can I go? Can I try to learn? And her MO was, if you really care about it enough, you'll pay for the school yourself. And she watched me earn that money and pay for it myself, and that she saw the discipline behind it. So she eventually really became just full-time supportive. She's my number one supporter. My dad, however, was not a fan. He considered me way too smart to be doing pro wrestling, which I could probably agree to some extent. But he was wanting me to just do anything else. And it's funny, he was always advocating me being an entrepreneur. Why don't you own the company? So we ended up doing both. So we got there with Dad. We got there for Dad. But in terms of the family, that was really the big thing. Everyone else is kind of, the outside the nuclear family is, oh, okay, that's interesting. But then they see it be successful, and then they become more supportive. Once people realize that you can make a living off of it, or it doesn't have to look how they look, or they see I'm happy or okay, I think the criticism kind of dials back a little.
But to you that's tough, isn't it? Or it isn't, because I mean I guess people take it in a different way, but it's like people only want to support you when you're successful.
Yeah, I mean, it's confetti, right? Some people only come out when they win, right? Just like it only comes out when you win. Like it's okay. It's not everyone's going to get your vision, and if I had to sit around and wait for everybody to get it, I wouldn't have started wrestling yet.
Yeah.
It's sometimes you just got to be like, all right, y'all don't get it today, but you'll get it tomorrow. I'm sure Michael Jackson sounded crazy at one point too. But I think that's just. Any kind of artist in love with their art has to just commit to the bit and not really care. There are moments as a young 20-something man where, pro wrestling, like you said, it's not necessarily respected. It's loved, but not respected, which is so funny.
Yeah.
Because everyone, if you watch any sitcom, there's a pro wrestling episode somewhere. If you watch Shrek, there's a pro wrestling scene in Shrek. Like, there's people love wrestling, and it's nostalgic to a sense, but it doesn't get respected because I think people don't really. I think people have, for a long time, had an issue with what it is. they don't like being fooled. They like to think they're smart. They're too smart for things. People like being the smartest person in the room or being right. So I think the idea that this is a thing that's telling you it's a show and maybe leading you somewhere else or maybe confusing you. I think people rather just be like, no, like that's fake and I'm above it. But it's never really telling you that it's that. It tells you what it is. Pro wrestling is entertainment. It tells what it is.
Yeah.
So I think I always think it's like 3 different levels. Like there's the fan which is usually a child, thinks it's real. There's someone who's a little bit smarter who knows what's up, but thinks they're smarter than everybody else because like, oh, that's stupid, it's fake, da 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 da. And then there's the really smart person who gets what it is, can understand for what it is, and loves it. It just doesn't have to love it, but just understands it, doesn't really judge it because it's at the end of the day, like I said, it's 4-dimensional theater. It's a one-take stunt show. It's storytelling. It's acting. It's all these things wrapped in one. So when you realize the skill set or the skill level to have to do something that's complex, I mean, I feel like any person with who doesn't think with their ego necessarily, who can think without an ego, could see the beauty in it. So I think I detach from people who judge it and just lean into people who understand and feel bad for people who don't get it. Just don't get it.
How was that experience going into the first Charlotte Wrestling Club?
In terms of like,
for your training.
Yeah. So that was cool. There was a guy local to Charlotte at the time named Cedric Alexander, who went on to who's done great things. He's been a WWE superstar. He's wrestled at WrestleMania, won a championship at WrestleMania. He's done great things now, and he was local at the time. I think he was in early 20s, and I saw him at a local show. And to me, if you're in the wrestling, man, you're a star. To me, I'm a kid. I'm 12, 13. You're doing what I want to do. You might as well be Superman. You know? I saw him at the gym one year and asked for to meet him or shake his hand or whatever like that. And then a year later, when I went to go train, Cedric was there at the training school. So immediately, I was welcomed with a familiar face and kind of a mentor there to guide me. Cedric Alexander is a young black man, and that was important for me to see him be successful in doing his thing despite the circumstances pro wrestling puts us in. To see that was very it was inspiring to me. So between that and my original trainer George South, honestly, pro wrestling, it fit like a glove coming in. I was so obsessed as a child that I watched it. So every time the trainer, even though I wasn't the most athletic kid, when the trainer told me this is how you do something, I got it like that because I watched it so long. I was obsessed. I was ready to do this. Tuck your chin. Or I read a book that told me that when you fall down, you should tuck your chin. I know Chris Jericho said that one time in an interview years ago. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to do it like that. And so honestly, it was a very welcoming environment. I was excited to be there. As a 17-year-old, it was cool to go back to school the next day and be like, oh yeah, this is me. This is me. I'm doing it, y'all. I don't care. Like y'all waiting to college to start your career. I'm doing it now. And so there was a little bit of excitement there, but it was fun.
And you said like your fitness level wasn't as high as but then can anyone just like get involved into wrestling? Because like it's like it's a skill set that like you have to learn how to fall, you have to learn how to do flips, you have to learn how to kind of play the art into the other person as well, because it's like someone has to catch you correctly, you have to fall the right way, cues in a way that people don't really see it. Like what is it then? Like for you, what was it like that kind of set the foundation of like how you're gonna be?
So I won't say definitely no one can just pick it up and just do it. Okay. I've seen a lot of people be fans their whole life and walk in and they suck. And they've seen how wrestling looks. They've been watching it for 20 years, but for some reason they cannot get in their head what this is supposed to look like as you're doing it. You know, It's not for everybody. Me, I just had a lot of drive and heart. I think that I have athletic genes, but I naturally wasn't a kid who was interested in sport. So I guess with that's what I'm speaking to. As a child, I was more interested in performance. I was more interested in acting. I was more interested in storytelling. And so once I found wrestling and realized it was a hybrid of all these things, and it kind of gave me, I don't know. I don't want to say a glimpse of what it would be like, but I never really wanted to be a football player. I never wanted to play basketball. I played soccer because my mom told me I had to do something physical. Mm-hmm. But once I could get away with it, I stopped. I started doing music. I started doing other stuff. But so it really was a lot of okay, just get the lead out your ass, trim some of this unathleticism off, get the rust off, and move. So it was just me showing up every day and working hard, going to the gym and learning how to work out, learning how to put on muscle mass, learning how to change your body, and knowing how to like tap into your athleticism. So for me, it was just a lot of hard work. That's really what that is.
And how was the journey of you getting your first opportunity? Like, how tough was that?
It considers what you see as an opportunity.
Well, for you, what was like your...
For me, it was my first match. I trained for a year. And
wow.
I was a high school student, so I mean, like they weren't trying to put me on shows. It wasn't not too many shows I could work at 17, right? Mm-hmm. But as I was getting ready to move into college, I did my senior year of high school, so I started wrestling. The day I moved into college, my trainer got me a match that day at one of his shows, his local shows, and he does things. My trainer's a different kind of guy. His name is George South. He's one of a kind, but he's he owns a ring, and so. He does big shows. He'll do like major companies, but he'll also just like pop up at kids' birthday parties and like bring local wrestlers or bring trainees who are learning how to cut their teeth to do shows in front of kids. So my first match.
Is that to kind of like expose them to something first before they actually get on stage?
Yeah, it's a little bit of that.
Because like I bet you, because like I bet. Oh, okay.
It's that like the families are paying him. You know what I mean? Like the summer camps are paying him.
Yeah.
But so he's like, oh, bring my trainees who need to wrestle, they need to get reps in, so they'll come and they'll wrestle for me. And we weren't getting paid, but we just wanted to wrestle and learn. So it's a little bit of both. It was a cool learning experience. But my first match, legitimately, was my first opportunity, was to wrestle one of my mentors, Cedric. He let me wrestle Cedric at a kids, I think it was a summer camp program. It was a bunch of youth. Had to be like 100 and some kids out there ready to meet us. And funny enough, the ring broke down on the way to the show. And we were supposed to... We thought, okay, we're just going to meet and greet these kids. Maybe, tell them we're wrestlers, maybe put our gear on. That'll excite them enough. My trainer is different in thought. He goes, no. He takes 4 sticks in the ground, makes a square, takes those where you go to those car auto lots and there's like that flag, the rope with the flags on it.
With the different colors?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wraps it around the 4 sticks and goes, this is your ring. You're wrestling in the grass now. Make it work. Wrestling's for anything. And you can YouTube this. If you YouTube Without the Mat, George South Without the Mat, it'll come up. It's my first match. And I'm wrestling Cedric in the grass. And that was my first opportunity. And I knew then how goofy it looked. I said, wow, I've trained, all this time for a year and told all my high school friends that I'm about to be a wrestler. And my first match is in the grass, the backyard thing. So, it's a little embarrassing, but it's funny because how I didn't lose hope was I was wrestling Cedric that night. But the next night, Cedric was flying to New York to wrestle in the Manhattan Center. So it just shows you how flexible wrestling is. It can easily. Cedric was on. You know what I mean? He was on already. So as an independent, he was trying to get on even higher. But he was it. But it showed you how quick overnight your opportunity could come and how accessible and within reach it is. So that was my first opportunity. The next few just kind of came local shows. Hey, we got a spot open. Do you want to bump? Hey, I'm looking for opportunity. I see you have a show. Do you need extra body? I can help set up. A lot of times wrestlers get in by asking, can I help set up? And then, you make some connections, get on some shows. And throughout college, which I did go to college, went to UNCG, I tried to kind of chase the dream without a car, without anything like that. I just got places how I could. But that was really the first few years of my career, just chasing opportunity. It didn't matter the pay.
Without no pay?
It didn't matter the pay. Sometimes it was pay. Like for a while, for the first few times, definitely free. Then you start getting paid, 20, 40, 80, 100. Okay, now I'm getting 200, 400 a booking. Now I'm getting more. You know what I mean? Like things elevate as you go on, but you have to earn that. Yeah, you just earned.
So you basically are your own manager for that time being?
Yeah, still am. Independent wrestling is independent. It's like being a rapper a lot.
Really?
You can sign to a major label. That's cool. They'll handle a lot of things for you. But there's a lot to give to that too. You got to give back.
Your independency's gone though.
Exactly. But with independent, it's like, you're making your own bookings. You're making your own. And there are independent wrestlers nowadays with agents, but they're usually like people who have formerly been in WWE and aren't used to handling the workload to do that anymore, or don't want to handle the workload. They've kind of earned their keep. They've earned their stripes, whatever. But as a person who never really, who just never wanted to sign a contract at this point, I can't say never, but I want to say around 26, I kind of became disillusioned with contractual wrestling. Or 25 really. I just didn't care because I just realized what a contract is. You know what I mean? But yeah, you just handle everything yourself. You market yourself. You reach out to people yourself, but it teaches you some intangible things that you can never duplicate or replicate, or you should definitely have in your arsenal as a performer, any kind of performer. These things they're priceless information to have, or skill set to have.
And as we're talking about that, it takes a skill set to be a wrestler. Have you ever had like, how has your perception on fitness and health evolved?
Oh man, it changes drastically, but it's evolved with just knowing like how important it is. Really, it's that it can't really be a diet or a fad or a stepping stool to get to places. 'Cause if it's a stepping stool, you kind of like it becomes an errand, it becomes a chore. You start to hate it, you start to loathe it, you start to I gotta go to the gym again, and then it becomes like a finish line. And then if it becomes a finish line, hey, I look like this now. How long are you going to be at the finish line? Because eventually, if you stop working out, you're content with the look. It's going to go away if you're not maintaining it. So it has to be a mindset shift. It has to be a mindset shift to realize that it's a lifestyle. You know, it's a lifestyle change you have to do in order to like keep fitness up. You know, my understanding of eating and what it does to your body became more specific. You know, sometimes if you're really in a zone and you're really doing well, taking care of yourself, you're probably calorie counting. You're probably seeing how much protein intake you're doing. These things like that. So it elevated, but a lot of ways, a lot of people going into the fitness and health journey of pro wrestling, you have to learn to avoid the pitfalls, which is things like, you know, eating disorders, body dysmorphia, steroid abuse. Those are things you kind of have to finagle around because that's so rampant in our sport as well.
Is that something that you went through yourself?
I wouldn't say steroid abuse. I've never used steroids.
Okay.
But I've definitely get body dysmorphia, man. It's hard not to. You know, you're in your underwear in front of people.
Yeah.
You know, and because this is a cosmetic sport that is efficiently a male power fantasy for the men watching, you know, you can. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever heard that terminology.
No.
So male power fantasy, it's like it's like you might watch Fast and Furious or The Transporter or something with The Rock in it, right? And you're excited as a man because you want to be able to see yourself in that man who's kicking ass and not taking no for an answer. A lot of men watch things like Reacher or action movies and live vicariously through it because maybe they're on their, you know, physical decline. Maybe they don't have as much testosterone in their body as it is. Maybe whatever. But I'm selling you the dream for you to be able to see yourself in me. And so once you can attach, you can that causes you to spend money and see me more and get into me or care about me or be able to relate. So honestly, the action hero is a male power fantasy. Die Hard is everyone wants to imagine if this guy had a gun to my wife, I'd go and kill him. Everyone wants to think that.
Yeah. Like, and they play out scenarios and they fantasize over about
That's the male power fantasy. That's what a movie is. So when you're in wrestling and you're a man and Vince McMahon, who owns the WWE, who used to own WWE, guys. If anyone watching doesn't know the history of the WWE, it was owned by Vince McMahon. He took it over from his father. He ends up, because it's such a massive, invisible company, he ends up setting the precedent of what a wrestler's supposed to look like for the 40, 50 years. You know, when wrestling first started out with the carnival roots, a lot of wrestlers look like strongmen. You know, you got like guys barrel-chested, hairy chest. Maybe they have a gut. Maybe they have more of a swimmer's body. But these are just like really strong men or whatever. And it's all about the actual wrestling. Vince McMahon felt like, you know, cosmetically wrestling had to be bigger, better. So steroid use in the 80s was encouraged. That's how you get people like Hulk Hogan. That's how people get like, you know, the giant monster, Ultimate Warrior, the big muscle guys. That's what people's idea of a wrestler is, a giant 6'5", 280-pound muscle guy, ripped out guy.
Which is tough. It's just tough.
It's unrealistic and it's unfair. But Vince McMahon has kind of curated the industry to say that is a standard. Now things have changed a lot more the last 20 years with the rise of UFC and flyweights becoming stars. I think wrestling has allowed itself to highlight cruiserweights and smaller wrestlers now, and even, you know, like different genders of wrestlers now. It's not so archaic or, you know, heteronormative or whatever like that.
Yeah.
Super, you know, impression of a man. But I think that when you are in that world, if you're in a world that has set that as a precedent for the last 40 years, and I'm coming into it, and I don't want to take steroids, but I am shirtless in front of men, and the men are, they're so used to seeing jacked up guys like that, that's almost their standard. So whether they have a pot belly gut or they can never do what I do physically in the ring, let me have two love handles. They're just getting fat, isn't he? Look at him. Hey, fat ass, Now I'm in the ring, But that's how it is. That's how people are, because there's very little room for error when you're putting yourself out. It's very vulnerable.
Yeah.
I'm in underwear, slapping someone. I'm very vulnerable position. And the men get it, the women get it. It's all very hard to maintain. So when you're trying to, once you submit to the idea that, or the understanding that this is a male power fantasy, that people are getting their kicks off of seeing themselves in you. They want to see something aspirational, not necessarily something relatable. They want to see something they can aspire to be. It's a hard pressure to put on yourself to show up at the gym every single day when you don't feel like it, to have 6-pack abs. It's the marvelization of the past few years. Everyone wants to look like Jonathan Majors and Chris Hemsworth now, but even that is a derivative and what do I want to say? A reaction to the culture of what pro wrestling has set. It's a precedent. So the larger life superhero has to look like that.
And what about injuries? Like how did you handle one of your worst injuries?
Time, bro. You never want to take too much time off. So as a wrestler, because you don't want people to forget about you. That's just the guys. But it's important to understand that you're no good to anybody if you can't show up, and you can't really show up for yourself. If you're broken, if you're beaten, hiding injuries and things like that, they're only going to catch up to you, and you're going to hate yourself for it when you're older. So me seeing almost cautionary tales of people who came before me, me being a student of the game, I know the cautionary tales of so-and-so and so-and-so dying at 40-something of steroid abuse. So-and-so and so-and-so, came back from injury too soon, and now he can't wrestle anymore. He had too many concussions. He's broken his neck, and he kept wrestling on a broken neck. Now he can't move. There's so many precautionary tales that I always said, hey, if I'm hurt, let me just sit my ass down and really just take time. There was one time where I didn't do that, and I still kind of regret it to an extent. Thankfully, I'm okay physically and mentally for it. But sometimes coming back from things like a concussion too soon, that's dangerous. It's just not really healthy. And when you realize, as you get older, you realize you're not invincible like you might feel like when you're 19 or 20. You start taking yourself more seriously. So to me, it was just, hey, wrestling will be here when I come back. Taking that time and sitting down.
And not only the physical aspect, but what isn't really talked about is the mental health of wrestlers. How was that for you?
Oh, it's hard, man. I think anybody in wrestling has a lot of mental health that they need to be on top of. I think every wrestler, if they could afford it, I would give every wrestler a therapist, just because you need it. It's like you said, you're already riding a line of reality and fiction when you show up to work. And even when you're playing to the fiction, you're wondering why the fiction's being written that way. What does it say about your reality? Oh, they didn't pick me to win. Am I not good enough? Am I too fat? Am I not the performer? Some people take that to heart. Some people understand for what it is. Some people understand it's a job, it's a role, it's a movie. You didn't get cast as a bad guy in the new movie because you're not a good actor as the good guy. You got cast because you're the right person for the right role. But sometimes when you're playing with, there's a removal of that concept when it comes to movies and wrestling, because we're selling ourselves as a product and it's our brand. So efficiently, it's hard to not take personally. People can't really let's say if I'm in the ring and I tell you you suck, or if I tell you as a fan or say something really horrible to you, that's a real person in real life in the room saying that to you. So how you might comprehend it, you might take it personally, you might get angry. It's different than if you're watching a movie and the bad guy does something bad. Oh, he's a bad guy. He's written that way. Yeah. If guys doing it in real life, sometimes it's not always it's hard to separate the two, because it's just a little, I'm selling you as me, especially if I'm wrestling under my real name like I do, Darius Lockhart. And Darius Lockhart got on the mic and said something horrible about the city of Charlotte. well, how did you say that he didn't say that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to. It's hard to switch to turn off. So just like that, when you're behind the scenes, it's dealing with the reality of that, or even the reaction to people consuming you. If I bury the city of Charlotte online, if people are online saying Darius Lockhart is this, that, because of what I did as a character, I have to remember that they're reacting to the character. But sometimes people don't remember it's the character. Sometimes they come at the person. So sometimes now, especially with social media, everyone's so accessible.
Yeah.
You're getting ads of all these people who can say anything to you. Maybe they don't like your work. Maybe they watched the match you had 5 years ago and thought it sucked, so they tweeted at you today, "Hey, your match, hated it." You know what I mean? Like it's just So I don't want to say it's fragile, but it's similar to a Hollywood actor or anything like that. It's very, or any athlete really. I'm sure KD, Kevin Durant had a whole burner arguing with people online. Yeah. It's similar, but that plus the stress of being in shape and looking a certain way. I think it's the mental health issues in pro wrestling. It's a very fragile thing, and lately it's been a big talk, a discussion the past 5 or 6 years to really work on that and bettering that, because too many of us have fallen to the wayside. You'll see a situation like a Chris Benoit or anything like that, and these are cautionary tales that are major, but that's the snowball of mental health deteriorating. And we have to avoid those things at all costs.
Is that because then injuries are overlooked, like concussions?
I think at one point they were overlooked back in I would say from maybe the 70s to the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. The spirit of it was if you don't work, you don't make money. If you're not present, what have you done for me lately? If you're not visible, you're not anybody, right? And Vince McMahon, the way he used people like a conveyor belt. Oh, this person's gear's out. Put a new gear in. Keep it moving.
It's a vicious cycle.
It's a vicious cycle. It's different now though, because the information that's come out about concussions. I think that I referenced the Chris Benoit situation. That was a major turning point for professional wrestling, just because it made us realize what CTE is. It made us realize what concussions is. So now you see a lot more people. We don't really do headshots with chairs too much often. It's very rare. You'll see that maybe on an independent level every now and then, but from the top level, or most people who are professional, we avoid things like head trauma. We try to minimize things like that because now we're more of a health conscious society. I think everyone's trying to move toward a better place where we don't have to just kind of throw people away like they're toys anymore.
And so does that mean that whenever you started to now, has wrestling and the injury prevention evolved?
Yes, I think it's way better.
Really?
I think it's way better, especially the more money, the better, higher position you're in.
Is that because you do less moves of a certain type, or is that because also new techniques have come out?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's a little bit of a number of things. I think it's people being smarter about when they take the risk, what's the risk is. Should I do this dangerous maneuver 12 nights a week? Probably not.
Because people just want to see it again and again and again. But it's it's not something that, again, it's not real. It's hard.
It's hard. Well, and there's I say a cheat code to it, but I could jump off the top rope right now, right? Mm-hmm. Land on something through a table. The crowd's gonna go crazy. Yeah. Right? It's awesome. If that's the only way I know how to get that reaction though, then I'm gonna have to do that every night. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think the wrestler nowadays, if you're smart, you smartened up to there's different ways to get reactions. And a lot of times that reaction is tied to who you're selling, the persona that you are, is making the crowd care about you. John Cena, I don't know if you're familiar with his wrestling, John Cena.
I remember that he used to, I only saw him whenever he was the army guy and stuff like that. But then I also seen clips of him being just a nobody, whenever he first started. But then he came to be that persona. But I don't really know the journey like that.
So I'll do one that's more maybe universal. The Rock, right? He has this move called the People's Elbow.
Yeah.
Okay, the People's Elbow. Well, the setup to the People's Elbow is a spine buster. It's just picking someone up, slamming them down. And The Rock doesn't do that throughout the match. He doesn't do it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
He does it before the People's Elbow. So now when you see that spine buster, you know what's coming next. It's the end move. So he does a spine buster, and all The Rock has to do is spine buster and stand there, and the crowd knows. And he can just stand there and milk it, and they're going crazy because they know they're going to get to see the thing that our favorite character does. They get to see the catchphrase. They get to see Lucy on I Love Lucy screw up. They get to see, you know, Steve Urkel say, "Did I do that?" They get to see any kind of trope that everyone knows of signature. They get to see LeBron throw up the powder. Whatever you know of a signature, that's what it is. It's the equivalent. And that gets more of a reaction because it builds a connection to fans. It builds an awareness. It's a brand building. So it's you know, I don't know if you're a hip hop fan. West Side Gun, he gets on the mic, all he has to go boom, 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 boom. That's all he ever does on any track. People gonna go crazy. He doesn't have to rap a verse. All he just does his ad lib. That's his ad lib.
Yeah.
You know, and that to me is like that's the cheat code to elevating the sport, not necessarily by minimizing it, but just by being smarter about what we're making people care about. If you show people jumping off a ladder through a table every single night, then that's what they're going to say pro wrestling is. And when they don't get it, they're going to be disappointed. So we can't oversaturate how we wrestle, the dangerous things we do. We have to desaturate the danger and make it special so you remember it and you never forget it. Because if I do a backflip off the top rope into the crowd through a table flaming every night, oh, that's what Darius does. He's doing that again. It's Saturday, right? Yeah, he's jumping off that table. I'll tune in next week. Maybe I don't have to see it. I know he's going to do. If I did it one time in my career, everyone's going to be talking about the one time I did that crazy shit, and you'll never forget it. I think that understanding counters a lot of the danger we put ourselves in. And if you're a smart wrestler, you do that. But unfortunately, the entire industry isn't always that thoughtful. So there are people who do the backflip every night and wonder why their body is crashing out on them at 29. It's because you made it that way.
But what other things that do you think you could do different? Like I remember when I was younger that like obviously like I didn't really watch Goldust fight, right? But I do remember the intros. I remember the storytelling. The intros and the music always got me. It's like Triple H's song whenever he come in and like he did the whole thing like.
Well, let me tell you, Goldust is still wrestling.
Really?
You know? And can still wrestle because the reason you remember him was the entrance and the way he looked and his name, and you remember the act.
Yeah.
You don't remember the dives to the outside. You don't remember all the things because he didn't have to do that to get the reaction. You see what I'm trying to say?
Okay.
Like the gimmick is almost more important, right? Like wrestling isn't really like about the wrestling. Sometimes it's about the act. It's the show. It's the getting emotionally involved, and you know Goldust. It's memorable. It's unique. It's something that stands out. So what he does after the bell almost comes second because you remember his name. Damn it! I don't think you remember Goldust's name if he dressed like a normal guy in black trunks and did all the craziest moves in the world.
No, absolutely not.
You would just know that there's a guy who does that at one time. And I don't remember his name.
You remember color, like it's like Gold, Kane, Undertaker, like all these.
Right.
But it's really just like a reaction out of the characters, not really their fighting. I don't remember any of their fighting really.
If you watch Marvel movies, most people's favorite moments in Marvel movies aren't really the fight scenes, bro. Think about it.
It's just the character behind the history, like the history behind the character. Oh, this person did this, and it's like
it's wrestling. That's why it works.
Yeah.
The MCU is wrestling. You know what I mean? When Iron Man comes on screen, everyone cheers, right? His music hit.
Yeah.
You know, on your left scene of the portals. That's Stone Cold Steve Austin coming back. You know, to help out Triple H if you really want to, you know, parallel it. But it's realizing what resonates with your audience to where you don't have to burn people out on the high spots and putting yourself in danger. Knowing what's important to your audience, knowing what matters to folks and what resonates, that's going to get you further as a pro wrestler than, you know, any stunt could do or anything that could put your body in danger could do.
So in a lot of other situations, I know that you were telling me that black wrestlers have been put in this like bad guy, like having to be a bad guy. Then how would you describe yourself as a wrestler? Like you said, like you're more empathetic. Like you said times 10, your best characteristics. So therefore, what is your best characteristic? You said like.
So before I say that, I will say it's not that we're necessarily always the bad guy. It's that sometimes we're asked to fulfill roles that like are more stereotypical.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Okay. So, but my characteristic, I mean, it's a person who cares about people. It's a person who stands up for what he believes in. That's right. even when it's even when he's not doing the right thing to get it done. It's a little bit of there's a wrestler named Bret Hart. It's a little bit of Bret Hart. It's a little bit of Fred Hampton. My character cares about competition and bringing the sport to a higher level, but he wants access for everyone to elevate the sport. He wants to move culture forward, and not culture, just black culture, human culture, human race culture, everything. But you do that by being the best version of you and then spreading that love on to people, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm the revolutionary, the intergalactic soul, the honorable brother, Darius Lockhart. That's the persona. But the persona is just someone who wants to be better and is encouraging you to be better. And will get down and dirty to do it. He cares about the community. He cares about his family, friends and family. But he also, there's ego there. There's a little bit of some things I pull from people like Muhammad Ali. There's a little bit of things. You have to have Achilles heels, right? Mm-hmm. So his confidence can be that for him. But it's a mixture of basically amalgamation of people who fought for good causes, people who care about themselves and the next person, and also amalgamation of just I guess positive black masculinity. I've kind of curated Darius Lockhart to be the person that I needed when I was younger, as a young black man watching TV.
You felt like whenever you were younger, you were a bit vulnerable?
I was a bit what?
You were a bit vulnerable?
I feel like we all are, but I feel like, media is showing you what media is showing you. And even though my father was in my life, there's certain aspects that, you just kind of, you certain things you want to see in your life, certain things you're looking for as a young man. I mean, even outside the realms of blackness, let's take race out of it. Just as a young man, sometimes, even take it out of gender, anything, as a human being, you have to be what you need sometimes. You have to be the bands you want to hear. Sometimes if the radio's playing you BS and you want to look for something more, you need something more insightful. You want to see something that pushes you forward as a thinker. You want something that maybe speaks to you and your humanity, shows you how to love rather than just, take or minimize or hate or shoot or whatever you want to do. You need kind of guidance or discipline to kind of show you what kind of human you want to be growing up. I feel like every kid looks to something for inspiration, whether that's, a TV show or music or your favorite person. But I wanted a role model that I needed to see exemplify positivity in his masculinity. And I unfortunately wasn't always privy to seeing a lot of positive masculine influences as a kid outside of the television I watched. So sometimes I wanted to see, I had some good black men in my life, some good men in my life, but I had a lot more women in my life. So sometimes I think that desire to see just like a man who's there to be like, yo, let's move this way. This is how we're going to be better. This is how we're all going to be better people. I think everyone kind of subconsciously looks for that. And I think that's what I wanted to give to myself. So there wouldn't be more young Dariuses who are frustrated by seeing all the black wrestlers on TV not only lose, but all come out and play the same cosplay or fake gangster that everyone else is forced to do.
Does that take you being a leader then?
Absolutely. I think the revolutionary Darius Lockhart is a leader. I think that's the character. That's the persona. He's a leader. Yeah.
How did was it you getting tired of the positions you were put in, or was it more because you wanted to put other people in good positions that you started Ashe?
It's definitely both. I think it's both. I was frustrated from a creative standpoint. I thought of the idea of Ashe in 2019. Me and my friends were just kind of BSing, and me and friends in the industry, wrestling friends in the industry, were just BSing of what a show that does right by us looks like. What would that look like? A show that didn't play in black people's face. You know what I mean? And we kind of just, curated it. And then it was, for a while, it was a group that was putting money together, but COVID happened and it kind of just dissipated. And I eventually just pulled, I don't say myself with my bootstraps, but I kind of just pulled myself together to get things going after I had taken a break. I went through a lot of stuff between 2021 and 2022. I had lost my father. I had got a concussion. I was trying to do corporate wrestling and maybe look at contracts, but I realized those places really weren't going to be sustainable or like growing for me. I think they were going to be detrimental to my growth as a human. Maybe not as a wrestler. I think it would have helped me as a wrestler, but as a human, I think that I didn't really need to be there at that time. So I took a step away, and in my step away, I kind of started to maybe resent what wrestling had done to me. Being on the road for so long and kind of, like I said, there's always that battle with mental health that I didn't necessarily have to put myself through. I chose wrestling. So sometimes take a step back and see how the industry kind of tries to put you in a box. And when you try to buck out of it like I was doing, it fights back and tries to make you feel a little, gaslights you a little bit. I think I started to resent that. And I said, man, I'm not the only person this is happening to. I saw a bunch of other peers that were also happen to be black wrestlers, men and women, get burnt out, retire early, retire and come back, take a break, need some stuff, lose themselves a little bit. And I said, man, this is happening to way too many of us. Ashe is needed now. And maybe I can't book everybody at once. I can't have everyone on the card. Of course, I can only have so much money. But at the same time, it shows someone that there's a possibility of us to be more. When you do a show that's predominant, like we never say we're all black because we aren't all black. We have a beautiful staff of all different races, colors, and creeds. It's really amazing from the front to the back. There's a lot of people that are involved in Ashe that I could never minimize their efforts by saying this is a black only thing. And our fans are so diverse that I would never exclude them like that. However, it's a place with a lot of black faces. And my thought process is, if there's so many people who are black, then nobody's black, because then you actually see who these people are. You'll see the persona. You'll see the actual gimmick that they're doing. You'll see who's Goldust. You want to see oh, that's Black Goldust. No, you saw that. This is new. You know what I'm saying? So that was the mindset of just trying to at least send a message to the outside of, hey, y'all, there's power that we can harness, and it's time for us to take our power back, especially like with COVID happening. I feel like that was a major shift of class consciousness. And I feel like if you came out of COVID still doing the same thing we were all doing before COVID, I'm a little disappointed. You know what I mean? I feel like there's an element to, there's a chance to elevate all of us,
As in what, though? Like, you mean like...
Well, I realized, when COVID, the world stood still, you got a sickness going around that's killing so many people that doesn't care what tax bracket you're on, right?
Okay.
You got to think, but the people who are on the lower tax brackets are far more disenfranchised to the sickness because they have less things that can help them, get better. So you see a loss of life on a mass level. You see businesses stop in their halls. You see businesses close. You see whatever. And you also see the government trying to rush people back to work in the midst of a pandemic. I think that's a little bit inhumane. I think that's a little bit kind of sick, because we realize then, I think the reasonable thing to me is to take a step back and realize that we're all being made to feel disposable or to be a cog in the machine as long as this capitalism keeps running. It felt like capitalism, keeping that running, was more important than human beings. Getting us back to work was more important than people just flat out just dying, literally, from this cardiac disease. So I think that, to me, with everyone sitting inside and watching what's happening, to me it felt like a wake-up call of, hey, we forget race, forget gender politics, forget all these things. The real enemy here is classism. The real enemy here is a caste system that's defined by capitalism. It all plays all of us. Racism is only a tool of capitalism. It keeps that thing running.
Okay.
So that said, it's I would have liked for everyone to come out of that with the idea that, the real power is you empowering yourself and empowering your others in the community and reaching out together. It's not who has the biggest paycheck for you. It's not climbing up and being at the top of the hill with the most money. It's really, really leaning into it and empowering yourself however you can, and realizing what you can make happen if you believe in yourself, if you provide for your people, if you give and then you give back. If we all have each other's backs, there's power in that. But people are quick to give their power away for a contract and some guaranteed money. People are quick to, I want to be someone meaningful. I want to have a meaningful journey as a black wrestler, but also they're paying me really well, so maybe I will put on the chain and do a tap dance. Maybe I will rap to the ring because, I got the bag. Okay. But look what we can create, something we don't have to play to that. We don't have to play to those games. We don't have to be subject to that train of thinking or minimization if we were to just empower ourselves and do our own show. Just because Disney has more money than me to be able to do their movie doesn't mean my movie sucks more than Disney's. My movie could probably be better, but it's just maybe a different kind of budget, different kind of circumstance.
Yeah. But
people don't really see that, is what I'm trying to say.
And people wouldn't know if they like it or not until they actually see it, and you haven't really seen it. You haven't really seen it, and the thing is, there's a lot of things we haven't seen, but people aren't really thinking about how powerful the power of imagination is. Angela Davis, who is a civil rights leader, still alive with us today, brilliant speaker, brilliant mind.
She always says that you have to be imaginative when you talk about the future. A lot of people will tell you things can't be a certain way because things are already this way. But nobody is really stopping to imagine otherwise. Imagine a world that's not an antithesis of the world we live in now, right?
Yeah.
It's like, if I say, I want a girlfriend, okay, what do you want your girlfriend to be like? Well, she can't be this, she can't. Not what you don't want her to be like. What do you want her to be like without mentioning what you don't want? Tell me what you do want. Now that's a whole new world of your mind that's expanding to what's possible. What's possible now just expanded beyond of what's not possible, what's already been done. Now we can paint something that's never been seen before, a picture that doesn't really exist yet. That's what Ashe is. And I think a lot of people are afraid to do that because we're used to the status quo of go, independence, grind until you get the big check from the big company, and then you go and then do whatever this man tells you to, then you retire, and maybe if you're good enough, maybe if you're one of his favorites, maybe if you do enough steroids, maybe if you clock in, maybe if you skip enough injuries, maybe if you cancel enough family events, you'll be one of the greatest of all time. But what if that wasn't how we had to do shit? What if I said, us as a community, let's build a story and let's build this and get people to come see our shows, and then now and we show them themselves in an empowering light rather than showing them, them another minority that looks like them losing, another luchador being relegated to being the only Latino on the card, only the there's a power, you know what I mean? Like, because it happens to everybody. It doesn't just black. Yeah. I'm speaking from my point of view.
Yeah, obviously, because you can speak from that because you've actually experienced that.
But also I see it happen to almost every person that is once again not deemed apolitical. So that said, I created Ashe to expand upon imagination and defy the status quo and create something new that's above a lot of people's comprehension of what could be. But I think it's important to just keep pushing that envelope and against that.
And I think that you embodied that quote that like Earl Nightingale says. He's like, instead of competing, create.
Yeah. Yes. Like, I'm not competing with WWE. That's fine. Let them do their thing. I just created something I love, that I'm passionate about, that empowers the people I care about, that empowers people I love. And people, the messages I've seen since creating Ashe, of people saying they feel seen, or people who are saying, I've watched wrestling for 30 years and I got tired. I've always got tired of seeing black people be beaten in the ground and never being champion, or waiting our turn. It's just for the crumb. And now they get to see a whole slew of people that maybe they relate to or don't relate to or whatever like that, but can expand upon what's possible. And that's what Ashe is all about, hence the word Ashe. Yoruba, creation, creating something new, energy transfer. We're creating something brand new. That's why I leaned into that word in the first place.
And obviously imagination is super important, but then where was the action that you took that like really defined it and started the creation of Ashe? Because like I feel like a lot of us today daydream. Like they're like, oh, we're gonna do this, or I think we're always quick to get inspired, very fast. Like, but because I think that's like how programming is also set to be. Like it's like you're inspired, but it's like you can only do it for so long. Like, what was the difference? Like, what action did you take that was different that actually solidified Ashe? Because who was rallied behind you? Was it because of the people behind you? Was it because of your own dedication and will that you said, like, I'm not going to really stand by this anymore and I'm going to start doing this?
It's a little both, man. I hate to keep saying that, but it really is both. It was, it had to be a lot of me, because I was, at the time when I came back to do Ashe, Ashe was literally my return to wrestling. I took like a year and a half off. It was supposed to be 2 months, but I took like a year or two.
Okay.
And that my return to wrestling was, hey guys, I got a promotion called Ashe, come see it. And maybe I'm wrestling, maybe I'm not, come see, we'll see. So it was a lot of me being in the house and having to be like, no, I want to do this. It's the time. But at the same time, the support that I received from fans that I garnered before I stopped wrestling, the tweets that I received, that people hadn't forgot about me, or the tweets I see of people being frustrated about, black people in wrestling or minorities in wrestling. The frustrations are the same. People who are just frustrated with wrestling just being the same old period, regardless of the race conversation. People who are just tired. It felt like this is now the time, now or never. It felt like a good push. So there's inspiration and then there's information, right? So I had to like inform myself, and I had to do a business plan. Who is my audience? Who am I serving? Where does the money come from? Where how are we going to do this? Where is it going to be? Does it make sense to do it here in Charlotte? Should I do it in another city? Can we tour? Can we? So those questions came next, and it's really just about, if you have the dream, if you have the inspiration, do the information on how you can, you can bring it to life, and with me being 10 years or more or less into wrestling at that point, I say more or less because the first 4 years I was in college, so I was barely wrestling. I was trying to do what I could. Mm-hmm. But 10 years relatively into wrestling, I become a sponge. It's smart to, no matter what industry you're in, even if you're selling paper, if you're with Dunder Mifflin or whatever, yeah. You should learn how to do almost every job, or you should at least pay attention to what other people do with your job, just so you, number one, you're almost intangible. Like you can't really be fired. You're almost like you're invaluable. That's what I'm looking for. You're invaluable. You know how to do everything, but also like just in case you want to switch positions, you kind of have done familiarity and you know what needs to happen to make sure that your position needs to keep going, or how to keep the company running. Let's say you need to run the place sometime, or let's say you get promoted to the boss, you own it now, whatever. Okay, well you need to know what the social media person needs to do to get their job done, so you need to know how that works. So sometimes it takes doing everything, or sometimes throughout my career it was just talking to people who did know how to do certain things. Okay. Talking to the cameramen, talking to production, the people who put on the show or who plot out the show. Hey, how are you doing that right there? Why'd you put that match first? Why'd you put that match last? Interesting. Why'd you pick that time for it? Just learning on the job. And I used all that information that I gathered over 10 years and applied myself accordingly. And also went into learning more stuff through just business acumen that I lacked. I'm a creative and an artist first. That's just my spirit. So businessman just comes second to me. So I just had to do a lot of research and learning about overheads and returns and things like that. ROIs, return on investments,
which are the boring parts because it's like you would want to just dedicate to the creative part and like let's just keep on doing it. But you have to see how much return it is, because then you need that money to go back into the creativeness. Exactly. It's like the boring part.
It's my least favorite.
It's like getting the cameras right. What is the type of environment you've cultivated at Ashe with your wrestlers and the people that are involved in the organization?
Man, honestly, it's a pat on the back for myself, but it's a very safe and comfortable one, and I'm so thankful for that. I've gotten a lot of wrestlers tell me that they love Ashe's their favorite show to work, because they can come and they don't have to worry about petty politics. They don't have to worry about microaggressions. They don't have to worry about not being understood. The environment I have is, you come, it's top of the show. We talk about what you're doing on the show that day, where your match is, what match you're having, and you're free to create. But I'm going to give you what we want to create together. I'm a little more hands-on, but I'm giving you a lane to be heard. I'm giving you a lane to be seen, and we're trying to like make everyone better. But at the same time, let everyone be the best version of themselves that they want to be, rather than relegating them to doing something that, maybe they're misunderstood by or whatever like that. I can't write your character. I can write for your character, but I have to understand who you are and care about who you are to do right by that character when I write for that character.
Okay. Yeah, because I was like, can just anyone come into Ashe?
No. I definitely I say I'm picky about who I book, but it isn't necessarily bent on talent or what I do or don't like. Mm-hmm. A lot of times it's about story and it's about timing. I do like in booking professional wrestling to casting a movie, because sometimes it's not even who the best wrestler is on this card. It's who's right for this spot. I need this wrestler to get this. I need this wrestler to be this guy on the card. I need him to be perceived by our audience as this. So he has to wrestle someone who fits the criteria of X, Y, and Z that's going to help him amplify those attributes for the audience. So I'm very specific about that. But these people who I work with, they know that that's where I'm coming at it from. So anytime I put them in a position, they know it's for their best interests. I'm putting them in a position that's going to benefit them.
Okay.
So it's very familial. where it does feel a little family. It's still business first. We try to get things done, but I let people just be comfortable. I sit here and know that they're valued. That's the most important thing, that I value people too. Because the worst thing you can feel is you go out there, break your body, and then someone just treats you like a body. I tell everyone, I'm not just using your body. I don't want to use anybody, just the body. So sometimes I'm telling people that that's the reason I'm not bringing them in right away, or I'm not booking them right away, and they don't want to hear that. But I'm like, dude, I don't want to just beat you like a drum. If you come in, you got to lose to this guy because I got a time, I got a quota to meet, and it's business. We got things to handle. So it's maybe just wait, and I'll bring you in the right time, and then we can really make you shine. So a lot of it is just care. That's the atmosphere around Ashe. It's care. We all care about each other and care about what we're doing.
Starting a wrestling company, does that have its challenges, like let's say with logistics, like the city, or driving so many fans there, like
yeah. Now, as Charlotte gets more Charlotte, and it's kind of rebranding, and in some ways gentrifying, it's easy to get priced out of places. These prices are going up. So these apartments are being thrown up, and spots become hotter and hotter because they're in a good spot. Sometimes venues will just try to stress you out. They will charge you what they think they can get away with, and so sometimes finding the right venue for what you're trying to do is difficult. But we've been lucky to find some very good partners, so I'm very thankful for that as well.
Okay. And so then Ashe is how recent? You said you started idea 2019, but
we had our first show December 1st, 2023.
Really?
So we are just a little bit over a year old, and we're doing really well. I'm very proud of how far we've come so far. Getting to work with already legendary wrestlers, legendary figures in pro wrestling, drawing houses of 300 to 500 people, and just having people come out and care about what we're doing. Even being able to sell out a show in Vegas, our first time out of the city, first time out of the state, was just really blew me away. So I'm very grateful, but we're less than 2 years old. I guess that's a year and 4 or 5 months.
Where do you expect to take the organization, and like where do you expect to put yourself in? Like in what position do you want to be in? Because at some point, do you want to stop wrestling and just be a creator and director? Mm-hmm. Or like where is it that you see yourself going?
That's a good question. I mean, I no one wrestles forever. I mean, some people try.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be that.
Okay.
I think I have a ceiling of when I would want to stop wrestling, or at least minimize my schedule. I've already kind of done that a little bit though. But I think that my goal for Ashe is to make it hopefully as big and impactful and as profitable as possible. I'm not trying to chase on anyone's coattails, but I would love for this to just be a hit in its own thing that you can celebrate. I look to people like in Living Color. I like Issa Rae, Keenan Ivory Wayans. Like in Living Color, it was a sketch show, comedy sketch show he did in the 90s. Mm-hmm. I look at things like that, SNL. I look at promotions like ECW. I look at Donald Glover, Jordan Peele, real creatives who have built something that, whether it's only for a few years or whether it lives on in syndication or whether it's continual, it was here and it mattered and it defined a time and it reached and touched people. And if I can make that profitable and live off of it a little bit, I'm happy with that. I think I'll know when it's time to fold the doors, but I think we're a long way away from that. I would like to wrestle for as long as I have fun wrestling, as long as it makes sense. But I have other aspirations in life. I like I said, I'm a performer at the end of the day. So even while I'm still wrestling, I will probably be doing a lot of other things, whether that's writing or acting or anything like that. But I definitely want to get into screenwriting.
Yeah, that was my next question. I was like, with all the like artistic and creative imagination that you have, like, what are kind of other ideas or aspirations you would like essentially want to delve into? Like, would it be like creative directing for movies or for stories?
Yeah, I think I would love to get into screenwriting soon. I've been thinking about that. I have ideas. That, I can't tell you all the
Yeah,
ideas. It's still my ideas.
Yeah.
But I have like at least like 3 to 5 scripts that I've kind of contemplated. Like that'd be cool to try and see if I can really write it. So I think that just even selling scripts is fine with me, even if I don't have to be on set or direct it. Like I just seen someone sold their second movie they ever made for I think $10 million. They just sold the script for $10 million. Second movie they ever wrote. I saw that this morning, and I think it's a guy who created this movie called Weapons. It's coming out this summer. It's in August. Jordan Peele was trying to buy the script and didn't get his hands on it, but the creator of Barbarian got his hands on it, and so now they're creating the movie. But the guy was only his second script, and he sold it for $10 million, and I was like, wow, I could do that. Okay. And it's not about the money either. I want to be clear. It's not always about the money. It's about creating a life that I could definitely be comfortable in while creating them.
But the thing is that with more money, obviously, like you can make more of an impact.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, your reach is further and it's creative. I just don't want to come off as like that's my only drive. I think the fact that the money, like you said, it's in service to the creation. The money is in service to the vision. It's in service to the next torch carrier. Everyone's carrying it further. I saw Ryan Coogler the other day. He's not even 40, and I think he's grossed before he was 30. I think he may have grossed $2 billion at the box office. No, I think before he's 40, because he was 30 when he made Black Panther.
Is Ryan Coogler the same one that made Sinners?
Yes, he's the director of Sinners, Fruitvale Station, the first Creed movie, Wakanda Forever, Black Panther 1. So he's a very brilliant writer and director. But he grossed the box office $2 billion before the age of 40, and he's not even 40 yet. So him doing that, I looked at someone, I go, wow, that's amazing. And I think he might be the first Black director to do that. Mm-hmm. And I look at people like Spike Lee, and I'm like, damn, Spike Lee didn't ever touch, maybe he hasn't touched $2 billion. Has he touched $1 billion? And I thought, man, that's crazy, because Spike Lee's work is so transcendent and so impactful and embedded in our culture, and it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. But it was a torch. His torch, the next torch is bigger. The next flame is brighter. And he did what he did, so Ryan can do it bigger and better. And one day, whoever comes after Ryan Coogler is going to do it bigger and better. And that's what I hope Ashe gets to do. I hope Ashe gets to be a Ryan Coogler for somebody to do it bigger and better, regardless if that's just wrestling or not, or if that's whatever. But I that's my belief, is that we're all here as a human species to make it bigger and better and for the next generation, which is why it's sometimes frustrating when we are stagnant in that. But yeah.
But I think you're headed in a good way, because I think that, especially since now you're leading the narrative, I don't think that you're necessarily wanting to control it, but you at least aren't the other person that has always led the narrative.
Right on.
And so therefore that leads to new ideas, new concepts, new ideas, people that they haven't seen it. Like how important is it for you to bring in music, other cultural things into the wrestling?
I think it's everything. I think on a business level, it helps us, crossover appeal a lot. It helps get, old fans of wrestling, because like I said, everyone has some kind of skimming with wrestling. Most people have like a little touch of wrestling. Yeah. So sometimes a lot of rappers, especially with all the references they make, they're wrestling fans. And so sometimes it's getting them excited. Hey, you want to rap at my wrestling show? Oh, hell yeah, I'd love to do that. And then they bring their fans. And then a lot of times their fans, we had Lute West from Dreamville on our first show. Okay. Perform. And his fans came to us and said, man, we came for Lute, but we stayed for the wrestling. We're coming back next show. and we've seen the people back next show, you know what I mean? And so things like that are cool to me. So from a business level, it's smart. But also in terms of, if I say Ashe is what it is, in terms of celebrating the diaspora, then it has to, once again, touch almost all elements and show, how artistic a culture can be. And I think that leaning into Black artistry on that level is super powerful and next level. There was a show from 1969 to 1974 called Soul, with exclamation point. It's by a guy named Ellis Hazlitt. He was a producer on it. And there's a documentary on HBO Max called Mr. Soul, if you want to learn more about it. Mm-hmm. It's almost a precursor, or really a cousin to Soul Train. They didn't do just R&B and soul acts, though. They would have political thought leaders have conversations like this on the TV. They would have poets. They would have ballerinas from Alvin Ailey. They would have, the Four Tops of Spinners performing on it. They would have Diana Ross. They would have Muhammad Ali do an interview. So it was just transcended, like a cornucopia of culture. And I kind of wanted Ashe to be derivative of that.
Okay.
So wrestling once again is a medium that I use to access you.
Yeah.
But I'm efficiently putting medicine in the candy, and just saying like it's fun. I'm putting hip hop music, whatever like that. But I just showed you a whole gradient of culture, of black artistry, and while the industry tells us we're this, I just showed you all of this in a 2.5 hour span, and now you get to go home and want more of it. So that's what I want to do.
And I'm always glad that people with like good hearts at least are doing it, because like it could be someone that is actually viciously greedy.
Yeah.
And then
we've seen it.
And then quickly sells himself. Like it's like, if money can't buy you out, then you have something that you really like, or that's worth living for. But that something comes like after years and years of feeling it, and then now it's expressing itself, and like I can only see it going bigger, because I'm telling you, I have never seen a black-owned wrestling company. I
appreciate it.
Which again, like you said, you try to take out that out of it, but the thing is that creatively, you guys have your power back. Creatively, because you see a lot of hip hop culture being taken into consideration, but the artists or the roots are never considered.
Facts.
Never.
Facts.
It's just like us. Like I feel like in my Hispanic culture, like they love our culture, but the people are misunderstood.
They try to play with y'all. I'm not gonna hold you. Yeah. I hate how people do
like
Hispanics.
But then I'm like, you try to understand the other side, right? And like it's like then. But we have to come to at least a table and like sit and have the conversation, at least like have a platform. Yeah. But then if you don't really want to have that, then like it's going to take me grabbing my peeps and then like actually bringing it to you and displaying it to you. Like, hey, like this is what it is.
Absolutely.
Because for so long, it's like other people are running the narrative of how they want to perceive me. But like that's not going to happen. I think that social media, obviously with its cons and all, but it always has its good things. Obviously, like the comments are always great, like as you can imagine. But the thing is that at least I feel like we have our creative power back.
Amen.
And things like that, I feel like I feel so hopeful for the next generation.
Same.
And I feel like that can only bring us together, I think, even as humans. I really I appreciate that someone actually stepped up and made an organization like this.
I appreciate that,
because I think that'll change perception, like in ways that I had never imagined. And even the things that you brought up, I had never really thought about it. Like a lot of even like politics or a lot of things that are embedded into our culture come from wrestling. Like and just that, again, it's like you like it, but you don't respect it that way.
But like, it's everything you love.
Yeah,
it's everything.
And that to me is just like, man, like But before we cut it off, I wanted to ask you, like, past who people know as like Darius, what's the type of legacy you want to leave on people? Like, what's the type of mark you would like to leave on the world?
I was someone who cared, gave a damn, and tried their best to do something about it. That's the first thing that came to mind. I was someone who cared, tried his best to do something about it. I just want to I don't know. I want to leave things better, but without sounding too like, vain or needing love or anything like that. I think I want people to understand that I just tried my best and try to pay it forward and make some cool shit. He was cool. He's cool. He did some cool shit. I think that's really what, he did some cool stuff. He tried his best to make it good for everybody. That's the best I got right now off the top.
And thank you again, Darius, for coming on the podcast. I feel like thank you for at least giving me the chance to talk to you, because
this is awesome.
It's like, I know that Ashe is like organization probably reached out to big pop stars and like has made a lot of impact happen. So I always appreciate, like, I'm humbled.
No, dude, no. Like the way I see it, like, it's. I used to have. I was raised in church, so I used to have a pastor that said, "There's no big guys, no little U's." But to modernize that saying, I heard Issa Rae one time say that you can't just, like, everyone wants to network up, right? Everyone wants to go to Jay-Z and say, "Hey, give me funding and pull me up with you." But it's something so much stronger about networking across. You know what I mean?
Okay.
The people who are also trying to do what you're doing, the people who are also getting it out the mud like yourself, who are putting in their own hands, their own power, and creating their own narrative, and who we may not be like the top today, but you might be the top tomorrow or in the future or the next couple of years. It's important to look beside you and see who's in the trenches trying to come up, so y'all can go arm in arm and you'll get further together. You'll go faster together. And then you can pull people up at your own discretion, you know, rather than trying to always ask for the handout. It's easier to just come up. So I just see that's what this is, man. Like, you know, it's we've got to work with some cool people who are known, but at the same time, you know, I like reaching out to the person beside me and being like, yo, what can we make shake? How can I get your art on my show? A lot of the artists we platform are people with less than 1,000 views on YouTube or something like that, but it don't matter because they're gonna pop one day, and maybe it be hopefully and partially for us. Maybe the right person will see them because of us. So I'm elated to be here. I'm elated that, you know, you took something that's so personal and awesome as this thing you built for yourself, and you reached out to me, and you thought enough to have me on, and you thought I would add value to your platform. I'm honestly honored and privileged as well. So man, it's a joy to be here.
No, and I also do it wholeheartedly. Like, I don't want people to think that, like, I invite them just because, like, I want to get more followers or anything like that. If that comes about, sure. But I would also like to give back to the people on this platform in the way that, like, I think just same like you, like unity. Like, it's like, what if we can bring the Hispanic culture and then, like, also bring them to your shows? It's like things like that, like,
exactly.
and then help each other,
because it's all about culture and class solidarity. And so it's always like, I'm a big believer in, like, Fred Hampton, like the Rainbow Coalition. It's like classism is the enemy, capitalism is the enemy. We're not the enemy. It's all love. It's all together. So I think the more locked in we're in together, bro, the more powerful we'll be. So
absolutely.
Even if you want to do something with Ashe, man, let me know. Well, let's talk it out.
No, I mean, I would like to, like, get to know your wrestlers, even if you'd allow it. Like, again, I try not to, like, come off as like, oh, like I'm trying to be intruding at all. Like honestly, like if people give me the opportunity, like I'll take it responsibly. Like I'll hold that responsibly and try to highlight what people are, not who they are. Because like, again, I think that a lot of other podcasts, it's like they just chase viral moments. They don't ever like really look into the person and who that person is. They don't really ever care about their feelings. They just care about, oh, we're gonna do a show just because you have a lot of followers and oh, we did it. No, and that's not the thing. I think that if we transcend that, like brief moment of just like getting to know the cover of people and actually connect with them, that energy in itself, it like brings people that also get to see it. Like I think that it's clear to see when people are very uncomfortable in a conversation and they're just there to be there. It's like I kind of want to get rid of that, but I want it to actually be real for both of us.
You have to earn it a little bit, right?
Absolutely. And that's my aim, really. Like that really is my aim. And honestly, to bring unity, to bring some type of comprehensiveness to like everything that we don't know, because I don't know, there's just plenty of things, right? Like, but I always like people giving me at least the opportunity to do things like this. But tell me, what's the next show?
Next show is June 28th in Charlotte, North Carolina. We're going to be at Slingshot, which is be our first show at Slingshot. We have access to a bar, so people will
is going to be good.
It's going to be good. The mentor I just showed you, Cedric Alexander, he recently left the WWE. This will be his first match back in Charlotte in, years as an independent wrestler, so he'll be back as part of the main event for the show. I will be also main eventing the show, wrestling for the Ashe Men's Championship against guy named Darius Carter, who I'm beefing with right now. He's been a thorn in my ass since the first show. So, and it's funny, like I put on a show for it to platform him, and he's just been a dick about it since. But he's a champion, and he's finessed his way to it. So hopefully, I can take it back for us. But so we got a lot of good championships. This is also you will have 2 women's tournament matches. We're about to crown our first Ashe Women's Champion.
Okay,
as well.
awesome.
So we're the belt will be there for people to see, but we will be getting further in the tournament and seeing what ladies are getting closer to be that champion as well. So please come out June 28th. Tickets go on sale soon. Stay updated at AsheWrestling.com, the website, to just see when tickets go on sale. I think I'm going to put them on sale next week.
Okay.
So please stay tuned. You'll have a month and a half to get them. But yeah, please.
What time do your shows usually start?
This will probably be 7 p.m. 6 or 7 p.m. Yeah.
Do they run long?
No. No. Deliberately, we do not let them run long.
Really?
Because a lot of independent wrestlers, a lot of independent wrestling shows are too long, and it's hard to get people back in the building when. Oh yeah, Ashe was cool, but man, I was tired as hell after they wrestled too long. But we like to keep it. You wanting more. We want you to leave saying, damn, I could have. That's it. Yeah. Oh, I can't wait. When's our next one? If you ask us when our next one is at the end of the show, that's a job well done. So our shows are never longer than 3 hours. It's like maybe 2.5, and that's with an intermission. And usually a live performance or a DJ there. We have a DJ every show. DJ Stillwell. Shout out DJ Stillwell. But yeah, so it's a cornucopia of entertainment. So we're in and out. We touch that spot. But Slingshot has definitely told me to tell everybody that y'all are free to hang out after, even when the show is over.
Okay.
He wants y'all to keep spending up drinks. There's arcade games.
I bet.
Slingshot is a really dope spot. Shout out to the venue owner. He's been great so far.
I'm excited then. I'll be there. I'm definitely interested in checking it out and getting to know your character and getting to know the people around it. And again, guys, if you stayed this long, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll have all of Darius's links below, and make sure you guys check out Shay out. I think that it's something really, truly revolutionary that the world hasn't seen, and we'll see where it goes. Thank you, Darius.
Thank you so much, man. Support, man. Love.